Hey, y'all, we are back for another edition of the You Are Dope podcast. And today we got a very special guest in the building. We got my son, Mr. Johnny Charles, in the building. And today what we are talking about, we're talking about genetics. We're talking about things that we have inherited from our parents, from our grandparents, that we had no control over. And we're going to figure out what those things are, number one. And number two, we're going to try to figure out what are we doing about those things? And are we passing those things on to our loved ones, to our kids, to our siblings? Are we passing the things that we've taken on or the things that we've inherited? Are we passing that on to other people? So let me just, for clarification purposes, so JC is my son, okay? You guys are going to probably hear him talk about his biological dad, who's Mike. So if he says, my dad, he's talking about his dad, Mike, that he's inherited something from. So that's my baby. I don't really like to go into the whole he's adopted thing. That's my guy. But, just in case you guys have not heard the other podcast, what was the podcast? What was it? What was that one, T? Blended Family. If you guys have not heard Blended Family.
To say they better go listen to it. Because they should know it.
And this is why we're having this podcast today. So if y'all do not know, go listen to the Blended Family one, and then you guys will understand the whole dynamics and everything. But JC is my son. That's my baby. So anyway, we're going to start with JC. Johnny Charles, what's going on, kid? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I am doing well. Thanks for having me again for my second appearance. Glad to be back.
And we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're here, man. So we're going to jump right into it, man. So you got my baby boy. You got Bam Bam. Bam Bam is JC's son, Mike, who's my grandson. And there's definitely some things that Mike has inherited from JC. I'm not sure if JC got those things from his dad, but we're going to let JC tell you the things that Mike has inherited from him. Go ahead, Jay. Take it away.
For starters, we'll go with stubbornness and hard-headed. That is a trait that runs on my dad's side of the family. So while I don't necessarily have an example that I can think of about how my dad was this way, spending time with my uncles and around that side of the family, it is definitely something that the men on my dad's side of the family have. So Mike is definitely stubborn. One of my buddies made a joke. He said, "Man, your son is so competitive that he is fighting going to sleep because he doesn't want to lose." And I think that's an accurate depiction of him. He wants to do things his way, and it's one of those things where he'll fight you, and as soon as you give him his way, he'll do what you ask him to do. But it's like he wants to do it his way. So he definitely gets that from me. As far as Adrena, she's very outspoken, very willing to communicate her feelings and what's going on. And so he gets a lot of that from her. So he is, and Adrena's also a boundary pusher. So he is stubborn, hard-headed, boundary pusher who is vocal about how he feels.
And he's only 3. He's only 3, y'all. He's already this.
Yes, absolutely.
We call him Bam Bam. Well, I call him Bam Bam because he's just rough. Like, the little man is rough. I mean, he be picking up chairs and wheelbarrows. Y'all think I'm joking, but I'm not. Bam Bam is
moving tables.
Bam Bam be moving tables.
No,
okay, Jay, thank you very much, man, for sharing that with us. In what ways do you notice that? I mean, when did you start to notice, damn, that's a lot like me? Do you remember when?
So there was one time that really stood out in particular. Shout out to Adrena for being the peacemaker and the mediator. But this was when Mike was 2. Me and him were arguing on the stairs. I'm at the bottom of the stairs. Mike is at the top of the stairs. And we are just going back and forth. He wants me to walk up there and pick him up, and I want him to walk down to the bottom of the steps. And it's like when I don't know the analogy I was going to give. But anyways, Adrena had to step in, and she was like, "Why don't you go meet him halfway?" And I said, "Wow." I should have figured that one out on my own. So I think that was something for me where it was kind of eye-opening. I was like, man, he's just as stubborn as me. Also with him, he can get really, really angry. And what happens is when he gets pissed off, he'll put his head down and he balls up his fist and he's like, and
Yeah.
when I was younger, I had a problem with my anger. It was like I would start to get mad and I just couldn't control it, and it would just like bubble over, and I would just be on 10 million, and I didn't know how I got there. And so I can see some of that in him, where it's like he gets pissed off and it just kind of sets him off a little bit.
Do you feel like that was inherited as well from your dad's side of the family or your mom's side of the family? Do you feel like that was inherited?
I would say it was my dad's side. My mom's side, that didn't come from there. I actually, this is wild. I specifically remember when I was probably 8 or 9 or so, we were driving somewhere. We were driving through Kennesaw Mountain, and there was a car tailgating us really close. And my dad stops the car in the middle of winding Kennesaw Mountain and gets out and starts going off on these people in the middle of the night. And so now that I'm older, looking back on that, I'm like, okay, maybe some things need to get worked on back then. But
Just
we
a
all
little
fall
bit.
short. We all fall short at times.
Well, I mean, and I don't know if this is genetic or not, but I mean, I can recall like you used to have road rage like that. Like you used to have some road rage. And I don't know how much of that kind of stuff is genetic, but it's very similar, like to what you're explaining from what your dad used to do, right?
Oh no, for sure. I mean, I wasn't driving through Kennesaw Mountain, but I did the exact same thing one time. So
So, and the people are going to want to know like solutions or like what you did to like overcome that or what you're doing to like work with Mike on that. But before you get to that, I'm going to jump to T real quick and talk to her and ask her what she feels like she's inherited or if she feels like she's inherited anything from myself and her mother. What up, T?
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Everybody's great. Everybody's great.
Fantastic. Well, let me just hop right into it. I think that I inherited my anger from you for sure. Yeah, sometimes I just I just kind of black out and I kind of lose my mind sometimes. I don't know, but I know it comes from you. I just don't know what happens though. But it's the
So you
anger
don't know
that
why you don't know why you get upset or why you lose it or why you don't know why what?
I just don't know why I get to the level that I get to so early.
Okay, and well, I'm gonna fight back on that. I don't think that it's early. I think that it takes you a little bit to get there, and once you get there, there's no calming you down. So I think that you come across very calm and cool and collected, but then you know what? There's a story that I want you to tell. Like something just happened recently at your job. Now, mind you, Taylor works at a homeless shelter with homeless people,
I don't work at a
and
homeless shelter.
sorry, what is it called?
it's an outreach.
At Safe
Uh,
House Outreach, a nonprofit organization that serves homeless individuals or individuals who are facing homelessness in downtown Atlanta.
My apologies. My apologies. Yo, but
And,
there was something that happened recently, and I want you to tell the people what actually happened. Give them a brief synopsis of the story and how you handle it and why we're actually having this conversation. So go ahead and talk to the people. What happened?
so basically I was going on lunch and we had ended late because we had a meeting, so I was leaving. I was out of my building. And there were some people waiting outside. And they really had an attitude for no reason. And I was just really confused because I was hungry and I wanted to go to lunch. So they were like, y'all are opening at 1:30? I mean at 1:15? I'm like, no. We're gonna open at 1:30, like just give me a second. I'm about to run out and then run back in. They're like, you don't think we deserve a courtesy notice? But it's this one guy who's always so freaking rude. So I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Like, we're not really obligated to do that. I just told you guys that we're gonna open at 1:30. I didn't even realize that we had a meeting today. Man, this man is calling me all types of B's and H's. I can't curse on here.
You
But
can, bitches and hoes. He
oh.
said. That's what he said. Okay.
And yeah, and it just escalated. My boyfriend was on the phone, so he heard me yelling. He got in the car, was about to come. I texted. No, I didn't even call you. I didn't even call you guys until I knew the situation was over with, and I went home. But I
All
was
right,
like,
so
oh my God. It
all
was
right,
insane.
thank you so much, T, for sharing that. We do appreciate it. But I'm gonna get a little bit deeper into it, of like what actually, like, what was it that he said to you that made you snap? Because it was something that he said that eventually you was like, you started snapping back. What was it? Do you remember?
Um, no, it was
Okay.
just a lot of things.
All right. So he kept going and kept going and kept going. And Taylor, as she was walking to her car, I'm gonna give you out a real story. As she's walking to her car, walking away from the man is still he's following her to her car and he's cussing her out. And he said, and then Taylor snapped, and she was like, "What did you say, T? What you say to the little homeless man that was in a wheelchair? What you what you say?"
What? He was not in a wheelchair.
No,
I don't know.
what happened? What is
I don't know what I said to the man. I don't really remember.
so anyway, the whole purpose of the point is that she had a anger problem. There was a situation, but it wasn't just with that person. I mean, Taylor, you know that if somebody says something the wrong thing to you, then you're gonna be like ready to fight. Like you get really really upset. So this podcast is not just about finding out what you do, what you've inherited, but it's also to have an intervention, Taylor.
Oh
Taylor, we are here to have an intervention so you can
my
go get some
God.
anger management. Okay. Now, but that is something, I mean, and I'll just jump in. Like, that is something that I'll be honest with you, that is something that you did inherit from me. That is something that I inherited from my father. And, when I was growing up, I would hear things like, oh my God, you just like your dad, your temper is just like your dad. But it was almost like they were kind of praising it. It's like, oh, damn, he just like his dad. He got that temper like his dad. And nobody was ever like, hey, that's something that you really need to, check because, your dad ended up getting killed because of his temper. And, I relate that to some of the things, Taylor, that you go through sometimes. Not that I think that you're going to get killed, but I do think that sometimes your mouth can get you in trouble. And so as I'm joking about like, yo, we need to get you some anger management stuff, I'm also
Whoa.
like, yo,
Whoa.
what?
I don't even be popping off at the mouth like that anymore.
And
I
JC?
okay,
really
okay,
don't.
okay. Nobody, Pops is not saying that, but what it is understanding that even though it doesn't happen often, like for instance, the scenario that we just talked about could have went way left. Now, obviously, thank God that it didn't. But ultimately, the whole goal is to move to a place where you do not react out of anger whatsoever. So yes, it has improved, but that still doesn't mean, it's like, hey, I worked out for 3 weeks in a row. I'm good now. I can stop working out. No. The work still continues. So I think that
Okay,
ultimately is
so
what it
what
is.
about Pop punching the guy in the face on the scooter?
That was something that I'm working on. I'm in therapy right now. You
Absolutely.
trying to bust me out? You
Yeah.
you ain't gonna get me.
I
I
don't,
am in therapy right now, and I'm working on my anger management. It's a work in progress every single day, every day. There were the things that I could have handled different about Scooter Gangster. Now that I reflect on it, I could have kept going, but instead of keeping going, I'm like, oh, you gonna kick my scooter and cuss me out, and then charge at me, and then I knock you out. Like I have to take responsibility. There were some different things that I could have done differently. So you see how I just handled that, Taylor? How I took responsibility for my actions instead of trying to blame somebody else? Maybe
And
this
that's
is something that
why,
we can learn from.
I'm trying to take after you. I appreciate
Well,
you being a teacher in my life.
well, I got your back, girl, but we just gotta watch things like that, like things that we inherit. It's one thing to inherit those things, but it's another thing to say, okay, I know that I have this attribute about me, but I don't want to continue to live like this, and I got to do something about it. And
Yeah.
so, as we're talking about it, mine is that I'm in therapy right now because of anger issues because I don't want to be like that. So I continue to go, and I haven't had an outburst in Scooter Gangster. Before him, I hadn't had an outburst, but you never really know what you're up against until you get tested.
Yeah.
And at that point, I got tested, and I didn't pass that test to my standards. I felt like I could have handled it differently. Now that I look back on it, I felt like I could have.
Well, I definitely understand what everybody is saying, and I would definitely take more insight into how I react to things.
Well, we would appreciate that. And another thing, the reason why we'd appreciate that so much though, T, like all jokes aside, is because like I'm gonna be there. Like if you had called me when that man was like cursing you out and stuff like that, I'm running up there as fast as I can. Like there ain't no ifs, ands, buts about it. And it's not like I'm getting there and I want to talk. It's like, no, my daughter called me for a reason because she felt afraid. But what could my daughter have done to de-escalate that situation? Could she have walked away? Was it even necessary to call Pops? Was it necessary for you to call your boyfriend? Was it necessary for you to call your brother? Before it reaches that level, is there something that you could do that's inside of you that's like, are these 10 minutes worth the rest of my life? You got to think about it like that. Like these 10 minutes of me calling my siblings, calling my daddy, and now my daddy in jail because he done hurt this person. Was it worth it? Or was it something I could have
That's
did
why I
different?
didn't call y'all.
Girl, you were on the phone with Sebastian, and Sebastian was on his way up there. He was
Sebastian,
driving like Matt Barnes, like he was
no, no, no.
Tupac.
Let me clear up the story. Sebastian was already on the phone. I was walking out and I was on the phone with him already.
And Bash was about to come up there and handle his business.
Okay, but that doesn't mean I called him. JC, you see what I'm saying?
No, okay. At the end of the day, instead of getting the big message, you're arguing about small details. The small details are
No, I'm saying, no, I understand the situation. I'm just saying.
you're
I
arguing about
Tell
small
me, listen.
details. I didn't call Sebastian. He was on the phone.
did not call y'all because I realized
Listen.
that it was not worth it. We're fighting a homeless man. It's not worth it. That's why I didn't
Okay.
call y'all.
Okay.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. Okay. So, Jay, what are you doing in order to combat the things that you've inherited? What are you doing about that, about your stubbornness? Is there anything that you're doing?
Trying to understand where it comes from. So I think a lot of it
Mm.
comes from ego and pride. I even think like anger, and when you respond in an angry manner, a lot of that comes from ego and pride. So really trying to understand where it comes from, and then just take a look at it and say, okay, in this situation, I'm being stubborn. Why is it? Well, I asked Mike to do something, and he mocked me, right? And so that touched my ego, and then so now I'm trying to understand, like, okay, how do I respond to this in a way where it's not my ego, it's me trying to parent and instill good values into him. So that's been really beneficial for me, is just trying to focus on, okay, I'm clearly triggered here by something. What is it that's triggered so that I can then figure out how to address that moving forward?
Yeah, I love that, man. That is one of the things that I actually do talk to my clients about. And that is that before anger, there's something else. Like it could be embarrassment, it could be like humility. You feel humiliated. But before you get to that anger point, there's something up under, like there's something there. And I don't know what that something is. You got to figure that out. As you said, you're on your journey. But yeah, there's something up under before it gets to anger. There's something there. So I love that, man. I love that you're doing that. Jay, I hope that you don't mind me saying it, but I know that you are also in therapy right now. And I don't know if there's anything that you talk about to your therapist about things like that. But man, that may be something to talk about, because I talk to my therapist about all of y'all all the time, my triggers.
Honestly, I talk a lot in therapy about, for me specifically, when it comes to dealing with Mike, it's just about trying to work on my patience.
Mm.
And just extending him grace. And it was interesting. My probably like 2 or 3 sessions ago, my therapist, I was talking about interacting with Adrena, and how I just give her lots of grace, and I extend patience, and just try to approach it with love. And he goes, "How can you implement those same things when it comes to dealing with your son?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, why are you yelling at me?" But
People don't understand how to. Go ahead. Go, sorry.
I was gonna say, but it was really eye opening, because we are going through a time with Mike where he wasn't really, he wasn't listening to, he just, obviously he's 3 years old, so it is what it is. But it was very frustrating, and it was like my patience was just becoming less and less. And when he said it, I was like, wow, I have so much more that I can give. And it's crazy, because literally him saying that completely shifted the way I interact with him. And now it's like, I mean, he gets an enormous amount of patience from me anyways, but I was able to tap into something and just unleash like even more patience than I thought I had, which has been awesome.
I love that, man. And JC, you guys don't understand. JC is like one of the best fathers I've ever seen in my life, like for real. And he has so much patience to a child that might be Mike. Bam Bam is off the chain, y'all. You don't understand. But to see the way that JC handles him is like beautiful to me. Like I love to see it because I know I didn't have that patience like when you guys were growing up. You know, it would be like, you know, yelling and screaming and you gotta do this, you gotta do that. So I admire that about you, Jay, that you're able to have that patience with him because it's not easy. Um, yeah, it's not easy at all. And especially when you're dealing with somebody, and Kennedy's not here right now, and I wish that she was, but when you're dealing with someone who's exactly like
Yes.
you think that it would be easy because it's like, oh, well, they're just like me, so I know how to handle that. Nah, it ain't like that at all. Do
No.
you guys want to share how Kennedy and I are alike?
Well, before we get into that, what I'll say is something I noticed with kids specifically is when you're dealing with your children, you're looking at a mirror. So what I realized, and this has helped me tremendously too, what I realized is anything that I don't like in Mike, he probably gets it from me or Adrena. So it's like, once again, here's the ego, setting the ego aside and saying, okay, I don't like this behavior in him. He either got it from me or Adrena. So if he got it from me, that means that I need to sit here and address like, okay, I got something I need to work on.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that. I think that that's beautiful. I think that it's dope that you're able to do that and put that ego aside because that ego is a mother sucker. Like for real, that ego, it will get you every single time. Like, and that pride, you know, not asking for help and not just, oh, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, when you're really not. So I love that for you, man. And if you guys want, you don't have to. We're running short on time, but Kennedy and I are identical. And it took you guys to actually tell me, like, yo, she just like you. That's why y'all bump heads, because y'all just alike. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we're not, no, we're not, no, we're not. Taylor, do you agree that Kennedy and I are alike?
Yes, it's ridiculous. Like, Kennedy, you're complaining about him, but you do the same exact stuff. Like, what is going on right now?
Johnny Charles, how you feel?
No, I would agree with that. It's she is like a little 2.0 of you. And I will say this, like, obviously you learn a lot through going as you go through stuff in life, but you can also learn a lot by watching situations. So for me, that's something that I watched. Obviously I was far away from it because I wasn't living in the house, but I witnessed it from afar, and it was like it was kind of an epiphany. Like you would think that you just assume that, oh man, Kenny's just like you, pops can deal with that no problem. But I think what it is it what I said earlier, it's a mirror. And so you're seeing things in your child that you don't necessarily like, but you have to ask yourself, where did these things come from? They came from me. So if I don't like them in my child, that means I don't like them within myself. And so I got to start working on me first.
Yeah, yeah, man, you hit it right on the head. And I know that you guys tell me like off camera and everything, but even on, you guys have talked to me like, yo, man, I really see a difference in you, pops, and I really appreciate that kind of stuff because I really do work on myself like a lot. So when I hear that from my kids, like, nah, I can see it. Especially you, Jay. Like, you always give me my props. You be like, first of all, he's like, I don't know how you deal with your daughters, but second of all, he's like, yo, pops, I really do recognize that you do work on yourself and that you in therapy and that you're working on it. And I do, man. It's constant though. You gotta, like you said before earlier, Jay, you gotta constantly work on it. You constantly remind yourself, like, no, I'm not this person no more. I want to be better and I want to do better. And how do I do that? Well, you do that by first acknowledging. You do that also by saying, hey, you know what? Look, there's some things that needs to be adjusted. And then you go back and you adjust those things. So yeah, man, I appreciate you guys hopping on here today with me. Taylor, I know we're losing you. Do you have any final words before we get out of here?
No, I love you guys so much. Thanks for
we,
listening.
lo- we love you too, Taylor. How about you, J Rock? You got any final words?
Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it. I always love kind of having conversations like this, um, getting everybody's insight. And just remember, man, the work never stops. That's one thing that I've learned through my therapy journey is sometimes it's not going to be. I mean, I went through like 3 or 4 different therapists before I found one that fit. So just keep trying to work on yourself, improve and grow, and you never know where you will end up.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yo, that is going to conclude this last episode of the summer, winter, whatever it is, of You Are Dope. We are going to be back in September. I'm going to spend some time with my grandkids, spend some time with my kids, do some fun stuff. So this is going to be the last episode for a while. By the time we come back, though, we are going to hold Taylor accountable, and Taylor's going to get those anger management classes one way or another.
And I'll be in school, you guys.
She will be in school, so hopefully she'll still be doing the podcast with me, but it'll probably be Kennedy more often than Taylor. But we're going to keep it going, though, y'all. We really appreciate y'all tuning in. We love y'all. Thank y'all so much. The You Are Dope podcast is doing very, very, very well. We're going to keep it going. And again, we'll be back probably like the middle of September. I might get bored and I might hop on here and like do something, but technically, though, I'm taking off just for a couple months just so I can enjoy my family. So I love y'all. Appreciate you. And remember, you are
Oh.
Dope.
Yeah, man.